October 7th happened, and I'm thinking, my people are being killed in Gaza. I'm reaching out to my crew. I'm like, guys, please reach out to your Congress people and demand that there's a ceasefire. That's all I'm saying. How is that controversial? He responds and says, I think we should not have a political engagement on the Trial Lawyers College Facebook page. And that was the unveiling of so many just horrendous points of view, people that were wearing masks that I thought they were my friends.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
Visit sumudpod.com to subscribe and connect with us on social media. Consider supporting our work through a contribution on the Support Us page.
On this episode of the Sumud Podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify Ibrahim Awada, aka the Karate Attorney. Ibrahim is a warrior for justice, rooted in Palestinian heritage and shaped in Georgia's courtrooms. With the discipline of a fighter and the heart of an advocate, he turns pain into power, stories into strategy, and every case into a pursuit of truth and accountability. Welcome, Ibrahim. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am so excited to have you on, brother. Ever since ArabCon last year, I got to tell you, when I first met you, I'm an observer. If you're an observer, you can tell somebody else is as well. And I can see that you're always scanning the room, evaluating. In some cases, I don't know, you're a karate guy, maybe sizing people up a little bit. I'm not sure.
You know, I used to do a lot of that when I was younger, but then you kind of just learned that the control is in the avoidance. The discipline is in the avoidance, not the actual engagement. But yeah, I've been an observer as long as I can remember. I just like to scan and see what's going on and constantly evaluating things.
Yeah, right on. So how are you doing? How's your business doing? I mean, you've been speaking up so much about Palestine and putting yourself out there. How are you doing overall?
Excellent, actually. You know, very early on in my practice, I made the decision that I was going to be vocal about where I'm from and my faith. And interestingly, so many people said, you know, you don't want to mention those things just because you don't want to isolate yourself. You don't want to be just categorized as only working, for example, for Muslims or only working for Arabs or Palestinian. You work for everybody. So you don't need to like really pigeonhole yourself into that sector. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm just really passionate about where I'm from and my faith. So actually, one of my videos about 6 years ago, it showed me praying in a mosque. And you may have seen that video. And so many people, even my own parents, were like, you know, you don't really need to go that far. My wife also said the same thing. She said, do you really need to showcase that in a law firm video? You know, the only person who said go for it? My brother Ali.
I bet he's a risk taker.
Ali was like, you have to do it. You got to do it. And he said, that is what sets you apart. I'm like, you know what? I agree. So we did it. And, you know, ever since then, alhamdulillah, I've been vocal. That's my identity. And I just showcase that. And that has proven very well for me because I think people admire, even if you disagree with that person, even if I have a fundamental disagreement with you, but I see that you're courageous. And I see that you stand up for what you believe in. And I could be diametrically opposed to you. I can't help but think, good for him in terms of standing up for what he believes in. And I think that's what people see in kind of the way I do things. It's like, you know what? I'm not Muslim, but I respect he talks about his faith. I'm not Palestinian, but I respect that he speaks up for his people, you know? And so it's done great for me, alhamdulillah. I also go to masajid, mosques, and I give this sermon at those mosques. So it's a kind of cool thing where they see that I'm a professional, I'm an attorney, I represent people, but I'm very involved in the community. And so naturally, they come up and they ask questions and they want to know more about me. And naturally, so many of our community members don't really know how to navigate themselves in the legal landscape. So they're like, hey, Ibrahim, I need help with my real estate. Well, I don't do real estate, but at least I can point them in the right direction. Hey, Ibrahim, I need help with such and such. I don't do that particular thing, but I'm the point of contact for them. And so from that, just being engaged with the community, you kind of naturally become the point person. And so it's been wonderful. Alhamdulillah.
I got to give you credit When I was doing research for this interview, there was one podcast I listened to, and I apologize. It's a legal podcast. I don't remember the name, but it was before October 7th, 2023. And you were so consistent speaking about the religion, the importance of religion, preaching to an extent to that audience. I don't believe they were Muslim. But as I reflected, I was like, wow, you changed to get better, of course. But it seems like you've always been extremely focused and committed to who you are as a person. And I just found that fascinating. When did you realize you were Palestinian?
I've always realized it, honestly. When you're home and you're watching TV, your parents are always watching Middle Eastern TV. Whatever they're most inclined to watch really tells you what's important to them, and thus, by extension, what's important to me, right? So we would always watch news about Palestine, about Zionists, Sahini. What are they doing? What's going on? They're taking our land. It was very, very important for my dad at a very young age that this is our land. This is our parents' land, our grandparents' land. This is generational, right? So I've always known that. I'll tell you a pivotal thing that stuck with me. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but, I've recently formed a nonprofit called Palistory, where we preserve and document Palestinian stories that are from Nakba survivors. So a lot of our elderly, those individuals that actually experienced the Nakba, they're dying. And I'm like, we're not preserving them. So that's kind of the root reason for establishing Palistory. But one of the things that we're developing is also a movie for Palistory. And that movie is going to trace my own personal progression, kind of understanding what's going on, right? And I'll tell you that when I was 12 years old, that's when we saw Muhammad al-Durra and Jamal al-Durra being shot by Zionist forces. And I remember watching that on television. And I remember, how Muhammad al-Durra, the child, he was 13 years old. So me and him were very similar in age, okay? And it just so happened his name is Jamal. My dad's name is Jamal, right? And I remember watching that. And I remember thinking to myself, now is the time that no one can ever say that the Israeli suffocation forces are not the aggressors. You can't say that anymore. Come on. Like, you got two people hiding behind a concrete cylinder, right? They're trying to, protect themselves. And I'm like, surely now, nobody can ever say that, the Palestinians are the aggressors. They can't say that anymore. Look at that. Look, we got it on video. And of course, with the tremendous Israeli propaganda, they twisted it and lied about it and blah, blah, blah. And it was ricochet bullets from other Palestinian fighters. And they twist it. And then finally, several months later, they finally say, oh, yes, it was by mistake that this happened. But by then, nobody's remembering it. Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares about it anymore. And that's kind of been the Zionist machine, right? Is they first deny, and then they're like, what? It was a mistake. This is not our policy, blah, 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 blah. But I had thought that surely now it's done. That wasn't the case whatsoever. And that was really kind of the point in my life where I'm like, we have to be in control of the narrative. This is not going to work anymore. There's nobody that's going to come to our rescue. We are our own rescue.
100%. So talk about, I think it's inherent and obvious, but why karate attorney? Why sort of double down on that persona of who you are?
Several things. Firstly, it's a passion of mine. I like doing karate. The name of the studio, even though technically it's not karate what I do, it's taekwondo, but the name of the studio is called United Karate Studios. And I love being an attorney. So I was like, hey, why don't we do both of those things and merge them into one? But the other thing that I realize is, on social media, you put out your business, right? The Awad Law Firm. And then I realized people don't fall in love with other products. They fall in love with other people.
Yep.
Right. So that was kind of the impetus of, well, why don't I brand myself? Right. Well, I'm not just branding the law firm. The law firm is Awad Law Firm. It's the team. Right. I want to brand me. So that's how it happened. Because, like my colleagues aren't the karate attorney. Right? They're their own persona. It's kind of like The Rock. It's him. He is the brand. Right. Nobody really cares that much about Under Armour, but he is The Rock who endorses and sponsors Under Armour.
Yep.
Now it's like, hey, just wear Under Armour.
What's funny is I can't remember who I was speaking to, but I'd mentioned that interviewing Ibrahim Awad, and like, who? I'm like,
Yeah.
the karate attorney. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we got it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right. It does work. It does click very well for people.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I learned from my dad, because alhamdulillah, he is still with us, and I still love to learn from his wisdom and his experience. And one of the things I like to ask him about is, you have any regrets? What is a regret that you have? At one point, his answer was, there was an opportunity for me to work with a doctor who was a really good doctor, but the business venture didn't really make sense to me. And I don't know if I could have even helped, but he proposed it to me and I should have done it. And I said, but you didn't even know what it was going to do or how it would materialize. He's like, it doesn't matter, because that person was a good person. And he said, if you have an opportunity or a dilemma, actually, between a product that's a superb product, but the person behind it is mediocre, and then here you have a okay product, but a phenomenal person, always go with the phenomenal person, because products are easier to change than people.
Yep.
That was his regret. So I now want to make sure that regardless of the product, if the person behind the product is somebody that inspires me, right? I want to do business with that person, because you're really in it for that person, not for whatever comes about from the product.
So to go back to your martial arts really quick, there's a rumor out there, tell me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong. There's a rumor out there that somewhere in Dalton on a refrigerator, there's an image or a newspaper clipping of you where the newspaper talks about you potentially being an Olympian.
Yes.
Is that true?
That is true. Yeah. In 2005, which was my last year of high school, what we wanted to do is participate in the Junior Olympics. That was the plan, but we later learned that we had a lot of incorrect assumptions, because if the taekwondo that we do is point fighting. It's not the type of taekwondo that is practiced in the Olympics. Like, they don't punch to the head. If you grow up learning like kickboxing, right, to strip away that ability of punching to the head, it's really hard to change. So that was the thought and that was the hope, but that didn't materialize because we just didn't know enough, honestly.
But that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I know you don't like to give yourself too much credit. That's huge. You could have been in the Olympics. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal. That was the thought. And we also thought incorrectly that there was like a $50,000 scholarship if you win. And it was just a lot of rumors. You hear different things and you think, oh, that's what I'm going to do. We tried to, but we realized, man, like, one of my big advantages is I have a pretty wide wingspan. You know what I'm saying? Like Muhammad Ali, that was one of his big advantages,
Yep.
right? So me using my hand techniques when I'm fighting is just a big thing, right?
Yeah.
It turned out not to be the case, but I did have a good run when I was 16, like between 14 and 16, like in all of the local tournaments, I was undefeated. I went a good 2 year, but then when I got promoted to black belt, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
And then I got beat like 5 or 6 tournaments in a row. I just paralyzed. Like,
Yeah.
my God, am I a fraud? Like, what the hell? Everybody's killing me out here. And they're not even the best of the best. But that's part of it, man. I mean, I think for me and my brothers and my sisters, like, we were introduced to pain very early on in our lives, like just a lot of stress. But, as they say, stress is a good thing. And we were able to experience at very early age. Now, people now, like when I see, my staff and my colleagues, they're experiencing stuff in their 30s that we experienced in our 20s.
Yep.
In our teens, we were making big mistakes. My brother, Ali, every one of us has sustained some type of traumatic experience, probably several types of traumatic experiences. But we just learned, okay, well, don't do that. Don't sell anything on post-dated checks, right? But don't wire transfer something that you don't have a close relationship with. Like, we learned.
Yep.
So.
And just for the audience, Ali is the CEO lawyer as well,
Yes,
just to make sure. But you could have technically been, instead of the karate attorney, you could have been the Olympic attorney, if you think about it.
I could have.
Yeah.
I could have. But, we believe in divine decree. Like, everything happens for a reason, and this is the way things were planned.
So you really had to become the karate attorney after you spoke about Palestine. 2 things that comes to mind: the Georgia judge that made comments that there were no innocent civilians in Gaza, I think that person was forced to step down eventually. You spoke up about that. You fought that head on. I want you to talk about that. But the other thing was somebody filed a complaint with the bar against you. Talk about that a little bit.
So the DeKalb County judge, Stacey Hydrick, she is a DeKalb County Superior Court judge. And even beyond that, we have an organization that's called the Judicial Qualifications Commission. This is the organization that deems what judges do as proper or improper. She's the chair of the Judicial Qualifications Commission, right? And she says that it's her belief that there are no innocents in Gaza, okay? Now, I don't really follow this judge. I know of her because I actually interned at the DeKalb County Solicitor General's office, and she was a state court judge at the time, not a superior court judge. But subhanAllah, I get a call from another Palestinian attorney, and he's a Palestinian Christian, which a lot of people don't know exist. He's a Palestinian Christian attorney, calls me up. His name is Musa Ghanayim. He says, Ibrahim, have you seen this bullshit that Judge Hydrick wrote? I'm like, what happened? And it was like, he had already responded to it. So he should take credit. He's the first person that was on the case, right? And I said, oh my God, I cannot believe this. So I immediately screenshotted it. I immediately took a video screen recording of all the comments and what was going on. Because there were people that were agreeing with her. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And she's a judge. Just for your audience to understand, this judge actually determines the sentences of people who are found guilty. Can you imagine? It's not just a random person. She's a judge. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I saw that. I responded to it, right? And then I said, I'm going to have to make a video about this. So I did. So I made the video and I put it on Instagram. And, several people were appalled by it. But still, several people didn't respond. They were like, man, I'm not going to put myself into this situation. They would call me personally or message me and say, hey, man, I wish she hadn't done that. I'm like, speak up, man. Speak up. Talk about it. Don't just call me. He's like, man, I don't know, man. I have these weird partnerships in my organization, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, it's on you, man. But you should speak up. So that video and then subsequent videos that Musa Ghanayim had made ultimately led to her stepping down from the Judicial Qualifications Commission. And as far as I know, she's still a Superior Court judge, which she needs to step down from that position as well. But that, to my knowledge, has not happened. So that was the case with that. Now, for that other scenario, I've been vocal, very vocal about Palestine, and I do my best to choose my words very, very carefully, and we distinguish between Judaism and Zionism. As Muhammad al-Kurd has said, honestly, the onus is on the aggressor to make that distinction, not the victim.
Yeah.
The onus is on the oppressor. I mean, if you're coming in and you're saying, hey, Israel is a Jewish state, and that same Jewish state is coming in and spray painting the walls with the Star of David, and then I have to now, as the victim whose home was stolen, to say, oh, no, it's not that you're a bad Jew. It's that you're just a Zionist settler.
Yeah.
More legally, a squatter who has taken over my home, right? No, the onus is on the aggressor. The onus is on the thief, right? The onus is on the oppressor that's doing that, not on the victim. Nonetheless, we take the high ground and we distinguish and we say, no, this is Zionism, right? This is Jewish supremacy that is antithetical to Judaism, right? But that's what it is.
Right.
So nonetheless, with all that extremely precise word choice, the first thing that I see that she had filed with the State Bar of Georgia is he is an avowed anti-Semite, right? And I'm like, come on, man. Come up with something brand new. Yeah. We've seen this one before. Alhamdulillah, the State Bar of Georgia had sent me the letter that this was a complaint that was made against you, but their finding was on the bottom of that same letter, where it seems like she had sent them screenshots of some of the stuff that I had said. So it said to an extent that we have reviewed the articles that you had submitted, and we do not find that Attorney Awad has fallen below the standards of a practicing attorney. And that was dismissed. But when I made that video, I asked people, what should I do? Should I put her on blast? Or should I just, say, alhamdulillah, it's been dismissed, carry on? And here's the truth. The truth is, I didn't want to put her on blast. It's been dismissed, no harm. And then my position changed because I realized that these people need to be named and shamed.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be named because actually, when you think about it, we're doing a disservice to our cause. When we keep hiding these people that are con artists, they're coming in and they're twisting the truth, they're twisting the facts, and they're trying to hurt people, okay? Then we're actually doing a disservice by trying to protect them out of humility and dignity. No, I think it's undignified to cause harm to the greater public when you hide these individuals. And so when I came to that realization, I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to put her on blast. She never responded to me. She never called me. She never reached out to me to say anything because I don't know this person. Okay. Sharon Zins is her name. I looked her up online. I found her. She's never talked to me. Like, I don't know anything about her. I'm like, you never talked to me. You don't know anything about me. And by the way, I have not only attorneys who are Jewish, who are friends of mine. Like, these people have actually helped me in my practice. I've co-counseled with many of them and we talk. And it's not a secret that probably the best attorneys that we have in this industry are Jewish. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not going to backpedal my position if you happen to be a Zionist. Like, we can't work together.
Yep.
We can't work together, And they're slimy, brother. They are slimy. I'll tell you one thing that happened. I had a guy who was my go-to guy for a particular type of personal injury case. He's my go-to guy, okay? And we're part of the same trial lawyers college. Okay, we're part of the trial lawyers college. Trial lawyers college is an elite type of organization for trial lawyers, right? Like, that's where you learn how to try cases. Before I attended, I thought, you can't really teach me. I love to learn. A Jewish attorney, Joe Fried, is still to this day a friend of mine, okay? Phenomenal attorney, right? He's a trucking attorney, phenomenal. I went to his office. I said, Joe, can you help me? How do I get on your level? Like, what the hell do I have to do to get on your level? Just straight up. He said, join the trial lawyers college. I said, bet. What the hell is that? He said, it's a college in Wyoming. Okay. And they have like 3.5-week courses. You got to just stay up there, but you have to first be selected. Okay. What do I need to do? How do I apply? He showed me the website. Phenomenal. So I apply. This was in March of 2017. And there's an event in Georgia that's a 2.5, 3-day event. And I go and I love it. I'm like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. This is great. And it just so happened they have a later event in July of that same year. I applied and subhanAllah, by the grace of God, I get selected. I go. 3.5 weeks, man. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Okay. But that's the whole idea. We want your total focus. And the first couple of days, you're calling your wife back, every night, making sure everything's okay. After that, bro, after the first couple of days, you're so immersed in what is going on. It's unbelievable. So you're calling her back maybe every other night or something like that. By the way, you have no cell phone service in that area. In that ranch is what we called it, the ranch. There's no cell phone service. There's no internet, right? You have to actually travel up a hill to get cell phone reception, okay? So anyway, I did it, phenomenal, loved it, right? I felt this was my crew. This was my village. These are my people right here. We work for the victim, the bullied, the damned, the people that have been damned to the death penalty. Like, this is serious stuff, right? There's an actual course called the defense of the damned, the people that take death penalty cases, right? I'm like, wow, this is the crew that I want to be with. But October 7th happened. And I'm thinking, bro, my people are being killed in Gaza. My mom was born in Gaza. I still have family in Gaza. Like, my mom still shows me videos of them baking flour after she sends them some money so that they can buy some flour. They're like praying for her and, thank you for sending us some money so that we can at least not starve. Like, we're just, putting starvation or hunger a little bit to the side because of your contributions. So what am I doing? I'm reaching out to my people, right? I reach out to my crew. I'm like, guys, please reach out to your Congress people and demand that there's a ceasefire, right? That's all I'm saying. Demand there's a ceasefire. How is that controversial? My people are being killed. The walls of their homes are being destroyed, and it's crashing on top of them. Please, I'm asking you, this is my family. So this guy, David Zagoria, he responds and says, I think we should not have a political engagement on the Trial Lawyers College Facebook page. Like, this is not appropriate. What? How is this not appropriate? Like, by the way, the Trial Lawyers College is so big into standing up for one another in times of mental health crisis. You have an issue, I have an issue, we post about it. This is our crew, this is our home, this is our tribe. That's what we call it. We call it our tribe. And he says it's inappropriate. This is a guy that I actually had cases with. Sorry, you told me not to slam, but here we go. I have cases with this guy, right? I have cases with him. And I cannot even imagine that he says, no, it's inappropriate to have this discussion on the Facebook page. What are you talking about? This is my family being killed. And I'm asking you just to reach out to your congresspeople. So anyway, that was a revelation. Not only him, but other people, right, came up and said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to accommodate what you have to say. And that was the unveiling of so many just horrendous points of view that I never had seen. And that's what October 7th did, is it unveiled all of these people that were wearing masks that I thought they were my friends. I had to send them a message. Oh, another thing that happened was at around the same time, Ali, my brother, CEO, lawyer, was talking about this, and he was also nominated for 40 under 40 GSU alum. And this Zionist, actually, he's an attorney. I forget his name now because like this guy's really a nobody in terms of the legal world, but he writes a letter to Georgia State saying that this needs to be taken away from Ali. And it had 100 or so signatories. He was one of them. David Zagoria was one of them. And I'm like, bro, what the hell? Like, this is my brother. Like, talk to me. Talk to me about an issue, you know? Because I've reviewed all of Ali's posts and I see everything that he writes, and he's also super precise in what he says. And, you know, people just take it and twist it and create their own definitions. I said, no, man, we can't work together. This is a technique that Zionists use. They try to put a wedge between you and your brother. In my case, literal brother, blood brother.
Yep.
But they actually try to make a wedge between you and other people in your community, saying, yeah, we just had a problem with him. We don't have a problem with you. I don't think he should have said that, and therefore he should be canceled or he should be whatever. So be careful. Be careful with that because it is a technique that they try to do with me, and I just wouldn't have it.
Yeah, it's like number 10 in their playbook, I think. It's always a go-to, 100%.
Yeah, so just be careful of that. And it's not like Ali and I agree on everything. You know, he said some things that I wouldn't say or agree with, but be careful, bro. They try to put in that wedge to make you like diametrically opposed to one another when you're diametrically opposed to them and not your brother who's also grieving over his family members who have been crushed under the rubble of their own homes.
And risking it all, speaking up.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And the movie's coming out 2026, is that right?
Allahu A'lam, we're going to do our best, brother. We're going to do our best. God knows best, bro. SubhanAllah, how this is all coming about, because I never thought I would be a director, right? A movie director, and then play the like protagonist in the movie. But, you know, it just so happens that I have a set of skills where I actually took video production in high school, actually. And believe it or not, being an attorney requires a lot of theatrics, right? So I've put together several high-end production videos, much shorter in scale, so a couple minutes long. But I was like, we can do this. We can direct our own thing. So alhamdulillah, we have shot thus far 8 different docuseries, okay, that will be part of our documentary. So it's been a lot of work. And we're kind of learning as we're going, but that's the plan.
People don't realize the work it takes to do these things. They think you can just show up and make it happen. It doesn't work that way at all. So for the documentary, I know it's too soon because it's not out yet, but the impetus for it, or even let's just say 1 to 2 takeaways that you would want people to walk away with?
Okay, well, number one takeaway is a thought that Arnold Schwarzenegger actually has, and it's the things that you think are your liabilities are actually your greatest asset. And he talks about these things. He says that had it not been for his accent in Terminator, it would not have been as big of a success, right? That is actually what made it a success. When initially everybody had told him, you are not going to make it far because of your accent. So he thought, just like others did, that was his liability, right? But it turned out to be his asset. So similarly, I think, inshallah, the Palestinian people that survived this Holocaust, the Gazans that are surviving this Holocaust right now, they're going to be world leaders in 15, 20 years. It's inevitable because they're going to survive something that nobody can say they had this type of trauma. So when they come 15, 20 years, because now the world sees what's going on. I make the argument that the people that were arrested during the encampments at Harvard and Yale, there are future Congress people.
Yep.
They've experienced it, right? They have seen what's really going on the ground. There are future Congress people, probably our future presidents, right? If history is any factor in what usually happens with respect to who we elect for presidents, but, with the present president as an exception, that's the case, right? And so if you have all of the building blocks where they've survived this Holocaust, then you have these individuals, world leaders, man, they're going to be showcased that these are the people that are going to lead the world. Right now, what's going on is just unimaginable, and it's, unbelievably unfortunate, but that's just how the world really works. I mean, there's trauma and there's chaos and there's crisis, but if we can just survive that, on the other side of that is going to be an unbelievably inspiring story.
So just to kind of tug on that thread a little bit, is
Yes.
it Palistory or Palistory?
Palistory.
Palistory. And I think Reverend Fahed is on your board, who I was a board member with on another organization. Phenomenal human being. We're going to probably try to get him onto the podcast at some point as well.
Fahed is actually one of our docuseries, right? So if Reverend Fahed Abu Aqil, he's not on the board of Palistory, but we actually shot his video, which was phenomenal, which traces his history and coming to the States. And we have a little snippet on our website. But my dad knew Reverend Fahed back in the late 70s, early 80s. So it's amazing that, alhamdulillah, we still have someone like him. And I just love how every time he introduces himself, he says, my name is Reverend Fahed Abu Aqil, and I was born before the state of Israel.
Yep.
And I'm like, bro, that's one hell of an introduction.
Yeah. So if you were to summarize the mission statement of Palistory, what would it be in a sentence or so?
The mission statement is to protect, preserve, and document Nakba survivors.
Period.
That's what it is.
Yep. And how do we support it?
It's a nonprofit. It's a registered nonprofit. So any donations that you make toward Palistory are tax deductible. You can go on the website and make contributions there. There's going to be tiers of support that we're going to add. We're also on social media, on Instagram. Palistory.usa is our Instagram handle. So you can follow us. You can see kind of all the events that we're a part of. We just did a local event at a local mosque, Roswell Community Masjid, with PCRF, Palestinian Children Relief Fund. So yeah, just support us and inshallah we can grow.
Inshallah. No, it's a great idea. I appreciate you putting all the effort into it. I keep telling people the art of storytelling is so important, getting our stories out there. Any Palestinian within the diaspora or Palestinians living in Palestine, we got to hear it in their own words. So I appreciate you working on this and putting it together. So there are 3 questions as I was preparing for this that I really wanted to ask you specifically after watching a lot of your Instagram posts and learning about you, even from before, to be honest with you. There are 3 specific questions I think you're well suited to answer. The first question is to those individuals, those professionals, those CEOs, those high-valued individuals, or those individuals even at a mid-level who are afraid to speak out or who refuse to speak out because they either think there's not a reason to do it or nothing will happen if they do it per se. No change in Palestine will really occur, or they're just too afraid to. They don't want to lose money. They don't want to lose wealth, whatever it may be. And I want this just to be very clear, to be a clip coming from you. You could take a minute, but this is something I really want people to hear from you about.
So if you first believe that nothing will happen if you speak out, first of all, you don't really ever know what's going to happen. But understand that the effort is in your hands and the results are in God's hands. And you're not going to be judged based on the results. You are going to be judged based on the effort. And you have to put in the effort. And in every situation where there is a fascist type ideology, there's going to have to be a sacrifice. If you don't do the sacrifice, if you're not willing to put yourself on the line and put your work on the line and put your college degrees on the line and put all of those things on the line, guess what? Your children are going to be forced to put it on the line.
Yep.
You know, the sacrifice is going to have to be made. I'd rather it be made by me, you know, not my children. I'm hoping that for them, they'll be in a much better world. But if I don't step up to the plate now, rest assured, the sacrifice is going to have to be paid. And if it's not paid by you, it's going to be paid by those closest to you. So it's definitely time to speak up. And that's really the world that we live in. We live these freedoms because other people have made sacrifices.
Right.
And so it's time to make the sacrifice now. If you've not done it before, I encourage you to speak up now. If you're thinking about speaking up, but you just don't know, you're waiting for a sign, this is your sign. It's time to speak up now. And by the way, it's a lot easier to speak up now than it was 2 years ago.
Yep.
It's a lot easier. Look at all the people that have changed positions. Man, we got Miss Rachel on our side. You know, Piers Morgan has changed his stance. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene has called it a genocide. You know, I disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on a lot of topics, right? But she has the courage to call it a genocide, which it's more than a genocide. But hey, I welcome that.
Yeah.
Right? It's a Holocaust. Like, it's present day. And there are so many ways that it's even worse than World War II Holocaust because it's happening in real time right in front of us. But the biggest thing I would say, you have to put in the effort. And every one of us has experienced the scenario where you can only connect the dots looking backward. But you look back 10 years ago and you see, oh man, had it not been for that particular effort that I put in, I would not be in this situation today. It's happened to all of us. So the effort is in your hands. The results are in God's hands. Don't worry. What we say, you know, a phrase translated from Arabic, it's do good and throw it into the sea. You don't know how it's going to happen. It's now more than figurative. It's literal now. I saw the people in Egypt, they're throwing literally into the sea bottles of adas, of lentils and rice, and they're getting picked up. Do they have any certainty it's ever going to be found? No. They have no certainty, but they're still putting in the effort. So that's what I encourage everyone, put in the effort.
I honestly don't know how people can live with themselves at this point and not do something. I really cannot understand it whatsoever. All the excuses at this point are exhausted. People have to step up. So I do appreciate that. Second question for you. Your direct message to the Zionists, to those detractors, to those bullies who are coming after you or coming after me or all the Palestinians or our allies.
What would you do if you were Palestinian? Just imagine you were born in Gaza. Just imagine you were born in the West Bank. Did you have any say in where you were born? Did you have any say who your parents were? Did you have any say into the geographical place where you were birthed? Have a bit of compassion and empathy for the idea that it could have very easily been you. And if you forbid yourself and if you say, I won't do that because I am God's chosen people, then no, that's not being God's chosen people. That's being a fascist and a racist. That's what it is. It's not anything else. But you just have to take a moment and role reverse and say, what if that was me? And what would I do in that scenario? So, look, Zionism is a very toxic way of thinking, right? From an Islamic perspective, man, it goes back to the very, very first sin of Satan. saying to God, I am better than he is, talking about Adam. Because from an Islamic perspective, there's the story of God commanding all of the angels to bow down to Adam. But Satan refused to do so, even though we don't believe he's a fallen angel. He is creation called jinn, right? But he refuses. Why does he refuse? And he says, I am better than he is. You created me from fire and you created him from clay, right? That's the poisonous sin, right? The toxicity of Zionism. It's all rooted in this supremacy, right? Racism is rooted in this supremacy. Slavery is rooted in this supremacy, right? So we have to first acknowledge that, look, there's no room in this day and age for any type of supremacy of any sort.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but there was a high-level Israeli that said, if I were Palestinian, I'd be fighting. Do you know who that was?
I think Ehud Barak.
Yeah.
He said, I'd be a terrorist.
Yeah.
But the idea is it's not terrorism, right? It's a resistance. It's standing your ground. Like we have this law here, right? You stand your ground law.
Yeah.
It's standing your ground. And that's what Muhammad al-Kurd mentions. He's like, I first thought that there is no American jurisprudential equivalent. And then he's like, until I learned, y'all have stand your ground law. Why is it just okay for you to exercise it and not okay for us to exercise it?
Right.
But it comes back to the supremacy.
Question 3. What does it mean to you to be Palestinian?
It means being open-minded. It means being disciplined. It means being resilient. It means that for every scenario and situation, there's a time and place to say something and to do something. You know, the civil rights movement, it needed people like Martin Luther King, but it also needed people like Malcolm X, right? So it's not like one particular way is the right way. We need all hands on deck, you know? And the way you do something may be a little bit different than the way I do something. But guess what? If it's rooted in sincerity and good intention, we need it, man. We need all of that. And it takes a long time, but it's needed. It's necessary. So looking at it as a Palestinian, I realize that, and this is cliche to say, but indeed we are stronger together. And when I say together, I'm not talking about uniformity. I'm talking about just unity in purpose.
Yep.
Right? And so it's important to really mend any type of fraying bonds that may have occurred over the past years or decades amongst us, right? Like we need to mend that because there's a higher calling, you know, there's a higher purpose. But beyond that, you know, being Muslim means that we have to have manners. We have to be well-mannered in how we approach things. And we have the right to be enraged. But even as a lawyer, you may be very vulnerable to premature advocacy when some people that you're talking to just have no awareness or context as to what is going on, and then it's off-putting, you know? So it's just having the wherewithal to speak at the right time, to not speak, you know, when it's not needed, to not mistake courage, you know, for cowardice or cowardice for courage, because there are sometimes people, they're like, you know, I'm being prudent, so I'm not going to speak up. Well, that's not really being prudent. You need to speak up, but it's also knowing what to say and how to say and study. Don't make it out of an emotional response. You know, one of the best things that I learned from being an attorney is that anger is a secondary emotion. Usually before you get angry, there's a hurt beneath that.
Yep.
There's a betrayal beneath that. And if you jump into the anger and you fail to unravel the betrayal beneath it, you skip over so many things. So one of the things that I've learned when talking to people, if I feel angry and I capture that emotion, I first try to understand the betrayal. And then from the betrayal, I can say, you know, I'm just really disappointed right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really disappointed because I had the expectation that the relationship that we have was much more than what I had just perceived, you know? So being Palestinian, it kind of forces you into that because of such an uphill battle to explain to people what's going on overseas. And the short answer to your question is just having the wherewithal and having the room for understanding what to say and when to say and the time to say it.
So assuming somebody's listening to this, or when they listen to this and they haven't been speaking up and they heard those three answers, what's the first thing they should get out and do?
If you want to be actionable, the first thing is, of the millions of people in Gaza right now that are starving, find one family that you can talk to, right? Just communicate with them. And look, there's going to be a lot of people that message you and a lot of people that reach out to you, but just say, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak with one family. That's going to be my main thing. I'm just going to speak with them. And if you can support them, great, support them, but make them feel that you care about them and you're here for them. And there's thousands upon thousands of people. I have a lot of people that reach out to me. The first thing that I do is I do a video call to make sure that they are who they say they are. And they'll usually go into their tent and they'll show you what's going on. You know, a lot of them speak English. I speak Arabic, so I can speak with them in Arabic. But you can do that. If we can do that, I think that, you know, a lot of people in Palestine, in Gaza, think we've forgotten about them. They continuously ask the question, do they not see these videos? Do they not hear about us? Like, is internet disconnected on their side of the world? So I think that would be my actionable item. If just do that one thing and just sponsor one family, if not monetarily, just as a, like we used to have in the day, pen pal, right? That's your Instagram pal.
You just aged both of us quite a bit there. Thank you for that.
There you go. Yeah, no problem.
I want to leave the floor to you for any final words, but I want to ask, is that a vest that you're wearing? Or
no,
is that a shirt?
It's a shirt. It's a full-fledged shirt. I don't know where I got it from. My wife loves to find this stuff for me. She's like, yeah, you should wear that. I'm like, okay, no problem.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I know with Palistory, I believe you were giving away free kufiyas for people who were signing up, I believe, at one point.
We've had several events. We had like some specials during Ramadan, but we are selling the kufiyas online at palistory.com. So if you want a kufiya that has a custom embroidered QR code on it that actually sends you to our stories, right? You can get it from our website. But the final thought I would say is a verse from the Quran that translates to, those who believe and do good deeds, verily their reward will not go to waste. Or translated in a more poetic way, no good deed goes unrewarded. And we often hear the exact opposite. We often hear no good deed goes unpunished, but that's actually antithetical to our faith. Now, the problem sometimes comes when we anticipate that the person we did good to, they should be the ones that reciprocate the goodness. That may not happen. Yeah, it's okay to expect it, but that's not why you did the good. You did the good because you are deserving of being good, and not necessarily that the good is going to be reciprocated by the person who is the recipient of your good. Just believe that no good deed goes unrewarded. It's going to come, but it's going to come not on your time, but on God's time. So don't diminish from any good act, no matter how small. Keep doing good. Know that the reward is coming. If not in this life, then in the hereafter.
I appreciate that. That's a powerful closing. I do want to let you know, part of our goal on the podcast is to have everybody from the Awad family one by one eventually on. So just so you know, we're going to make that happen slowly.
It would be a pleasure, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of your brothers, did I read? I can't remember. Are they building a small area called Gaza or Little Gaza? Is that right?
Yeah. So he has a huge complex that he is building. Inshallah, we're going to have a martial arts studio in that same complex too. But yes, there's a road that goes into it that he wants to rename the Gaza Strip.
Damn.
So, Osama, Sam Jamal Awad on Instagram.
All right. I appreciate you, Ibrahim. Thank you so much.
Habibi, Allah khalik, shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for Sumud.